Hi folks, if you haven't read the assigned reading yet, please read it before watching the video lesson here. I said it would be tricky to separate out Augustine's philosophy from his religion, and indeed it is. They're quite intertwined, but one way is to begin with his approach to epistemology. How do we obtain knowledge? Augustine did not sit down and develop a methodological theory of knowledge and then from this construct a metaphysical theory of God. As we saw in the film, reason had led him to accept Christian ideas, but his moral conversion gave him a complete certainty as to the existence of God. Augustine emphasized that knowledge of the truth should not be sought just as an academic exercise, but as a means of obtaining true happiness. When we look around us, we see our own insufficiency, and we reach out to something greater than ourselves, some certainty, knowledge that doesn't change, eternal truths that govern the mind and transcend it. Recall our early discussions about our anxiety toward death. But the big question for most philosophers, and for Augustine, is how do we obtain certainty? How do we obtain knowledge of immutable or unchangeable truths? How does the finite changing mind, our finite changing mind, connect with something that is infinite and unchanging? Even though Augustine takes God's existence for granted, as a philosopher he wants to build a solid, rational case for both the existence of God and how we come to know eternal truths. He did spend many years trying to refute the Manichaean idea of the existence of two separate, all-powerful deities, one good and one evil, and the acceptance of Christian ideas, the Christian idea of God is still rather precarious in Roman society at this time. He also goes through a period of skepticism where he believes it is impossible to know anything. So, confronting his own skeptical beliefs and the beliefs of his comrades, he states that there are some things we know for certain just through our own contemplation. Everyone who doubts knows that he is doubting, so they are certain of this truth at least, namely, the fact that they doubt. We are also certain of mathematical truths. If you say 6 plus 4 equal 10, then you're not saying that 6 plus 4 should make 10, but that you know for certain that it does make 10. But what of real existences and not just abstract ideas? The very fact that we doubt shows that we exist. For if we could not doubt, we could not exist. For Augustine, with existence comes knowledge of life and understanding. If we exist, this could only be clear if we are alive. It is also clear to us that we understand that we exist and we are alive. Skepticism was very much in favor in the Roman Empire, and it was important for Augustine to counter their arguments. Next, we must tackle the knowledge of the sensual world, the objects around us. The universal argument against knowledge of the senses is that since we can be deceived, are possibly dreaming or hallucinating, our knowledge of the world around us can never be certain. For Augustine, it doesn't make any sense to reject knowledge that we obtain from our sensations, simply because we can sometimes be mistaken. Our ability to live and breathe depends on sensual knowledge, and because we are alive, we are able to find true knowledge, which is the knowledge of eternal truths. Our rational soul exercises true knowledge and attains true certainty when it contemplates eternal truths in and through itself. When it turns to the material world and uses material instruments, it cannot obtain true knowledge. Augustine assumed with Plato that the objects of true knowledge are unchangeable, from which it follows that the knowledge of objects that change is really not true knowledge. It is knowledge needed for practical life, but not knowledge that will bring us true happiness. We can obtain true knowledge through the mind alone without the intervention of the senses. True knowledge exists for Augustine in the mind of God. But how do we know this? How do we get there? Let's take a look back at Plato's conception of reality and remember his allegory of the cave. Remember Plato's cave. There are a bunch of prisoners in the cave who see only shadows of images, and they take these to be real things. One of the prisoners escapes or is taken up above to the surface, where as his eyes grow accustomed, he's eventually able to see real things, real trees, real rocks, real lakes, and all the things of the world that are real. Eventually, he's able to even see the sun. And for Plato, the sun represents true reality, the highest good, truth, beauty. The world of the cave is the world of sensation, of the senses. It's the material world. It's the world we see around us here every day. And the world of reality is the world of the intelligence. It's not a material world, it's non-material. But it still is real, and it is what is actual reality. So in the non-material world, the world of ideas, things such as truth and goodness and beauty, the beautiful, this is the realm of reality for Plato. Let's look at it in a different way. Below the line is the world of senses, material things, the things we see around us every day, and we look at these things and we call them beautiful. For Plato, there's the reality of beauty as a form, an idea, true reality. And this form informs all the things of the material world with the idea of beauty, and that's how we know that something is beautiful. But there's a problem of participation both with Plato and Augustine. Aristotle saw this. So if you have the idea of beauty, the form, how does it connect to the material world? Because beauty is immaterial, infinite, has no substance. The material world is the world around us, finite, not infinite. How do those two worlds connect? Augustine's going to solve this problem in a special way. Um, the Platonic ideas really didn't, for him, have enough power because they were just in themselves. But for Augustine, the ideas are going to be ideas in the mind of God. And God is going to infuse them with the power that they have. And the reason we are able to know beauty, or the idea of beauty that's in God's mind, is because God illuminates, God lights up the ideas for us. Remember Plato's idea of the sun and Augustine's idea of illumination. It's kind of interesting.